Hello and welcome. This is a really chill video, or at least I'm not sure exactly how it's going to go. But basically, the new Terraforming Mars Guild Challenge, I'll make sure I have a link to the Discord and stuff, for this week, week 3, is very exciting in that you have to play as Inventrix. Don't get me wrong, I'm not going to play it in this app. I am going to play it on the normal app as normal. But I figured for building my strategy, I wonder if it'd be fun to load up into this, where I can look at all the cards. I mean, I could do it physically, or I could do it just as I was doing it a minute ago, writing it on paper. But I was like, what if I just lay them out on a table and chat about what I'm thinking as I build together a deck? What are the conditions for this one? Well, you have to play as Inventrix. And you'll note that Inventrix can play things at plus or minus 2 the global requirement. In this game, in this modded run that we're going to do, you're going to pick 13 starting cards. Whatever 3 cards the game gives you at the very start, you'll just sell. So you're $6. You'll have 6 fewer MC than you normally would because of game mechanics of modding the online game. And then every card you pick, and you don't have to do all 13 if you don't want to, but every card, English, every card has to be cheated, in that every card has some sort of global requirement, and you can only play them before you're allowed to, or in the case of maximums, after you're allowed to. The only exceptions to these rules are 2 cards that have been allowed in, which is Special Design, which increases or changes it further, and Adaptive Technology. Okay? So I'm trying to figure out right now, what is our strategy for doing it? And realistically speaking, I've split up this deck. So there's 154 cards left in the deck that are not eligible for us. And then we have all of these cards. Everything over here is mostly just points, animals, and there's a handful of cities. I'm not really interested in those for trying to terraform the planet. Maybe if we find we have lots of money, we can optimize for like a cupola city or something. I doubt it. Down here, I have Arctic Algae and Electro Catapult, which you could get, but because it's max, you'd have to do this at like 13, 14, something, some high degrees or high percentage, which I don't think is valuable, not to mention the energy would be tricky. Next up, we have this whole thing over here, which is one of the things I'm very afraid of in this run is our lack of oceans. We don't have standard technology, so we don't get to make them for cheap, and you can only get 4 oceans down, plus 1 for free, with this strategy. And the other thing I'm really worried about is heat. Do you see any heat production here? These are all plants. This is a little bit of energy. And then we have methane from Titan, which you could play before you put the oxygen up. Which is a really interesting card, genuinely. Like, if you just took this card turn 1, you'd get 13 productions, so that's 26 plants, so that's 3 oxygen bumps, plus you have 2 heat, again, 3 heat bumps, or something like that. Yeah, it's alright. It's definitely worth playing, but it's not going to get you where you need to go. I like Water Splitting Plant because you could play it immediately, but you need energy, which is why I was looking at Wave Power, Great Dam, Biomass, and stuff. Still not sure. Like, Biomass is great because it's only $4. You do lose a point, but whatever. But 6% oxygen could be tricky. But using Adaptive Technology, for instance, we could get both of these down without playing a single ocean. A Great Dam and Wave Power. $20 to get 3 energy production, not to mention we have to buy the cards, is 26. At that point, should you have just bought energy production for $11 a pop? Maybe, but at least these ones have points on them. They're not particularly cheap, which is why I was looking at biomass and windmills. But these, in addition to buying adaptive technology, is pretty tricky. You need to get up to, if you had +4, you still need 2 and 3% oxygen. And that's in order to buy the oxygen making card and use it. Hard to say. Though, if you are going down the ocean strat, moss, algae, nitrolithic moss is over here. I like to have those together. And cloud seeding. So, that makes me think that going for energy is kind of a lost cause, whereas maybe the oceans have the value. And then maybe the plants in the heat. Because next up, we get to talk about the heat. Do you see any heat cards? Because I see one. You need 4% oxygen to do it. And the tricky part here is you could grab a bunch of cards, like all these nitrolithic mosses, but you can't play them once you hit the actual requirement, is the rule of the game. So, how do you do that? I don't know. I don't know if the best strategy to do is kelp farming, special design, adaptive technology, turn 1. Right? That is appealing to me. It really is. Though, it makes me wonder if you could get the oceans another way, but not really. Here's the problem with extreme cold fungus, though. It's a maximum. So you actually have to get above negative 10 degrees to play it. So I think we're going to get rid of this. So I don't know. This is, again, just a video on my thoughts. How I'm working through the decisions of, what's a good thing, what's a bad thing. I don't think that methane from Titan alone is good enough for us. And I think that it's going to tie us down more than it's going to help us. I think that GHG-producing bacteria is going to be very helpful. Symbiotic fungus, though, requires negative 14, so we could do it at 1, 2, 3, 4. Whew. So, that would be okay if we can get the heat up a little bit. Because GHG producing would work really well. Again, I think that if we buy a bunch of cards, our turn 1 is going to be very weak. Especially given that we need to do adaptive technology and stuff. And that's not actually giving us income. Think about it. Right? But it helps. It really does. So let's pretend we want this for sure. And pretend we leave the oceans at home for now. We could get kelp farming as discussed. But all this, we could get all this stuff though. As long as we got a single plant. Now, how do we get the plant? Archaeobacteria, this is another example of a bad card. Also, if we're getting these plant tags, something like insects becomes pretty interesting all of a sudden. Because that's pretty good productions. And then in that point, you'd rather have lichen. So with adaptation technology, you could get all of this and use special design to get farming. You also could get symbiotic fungus and GHG producing pretty quick. I kind of like this. Insects is only giving us 4 plant income, but only 4 is disingenuous. That's a lot. I do like the idea of something like grass and bushes. Bushes is so good. 2 plants and 2 plant production. Something like mangrove helps to round off the game. Sorry, is there 2 kelp farmings? Oh, I grabbed farming. I don't want farming. Then cloud seeding, but this one's a blank tagger, and you lose income on it. Right now I have 10 cards lined up, and I could make it more. Oh, also these are promo cards for the base deck and stuff. I just pulled them aside separately just so you didn't get confused on where these extra cards are coming from. I don't know about these oceans. I feel like we'd rather have the money early game and then pay for the oceans up front later. But it's going to be so hard to buy all the oceans. I'm not sure how possible this is. And then all this is cities. I'm really nervous. The only other thing I can think of is grass because it's so cheap. But the problem with all these plants is that you need to buy the oceans to make them viable. What can we, with adaptation technology, what can we get? We cannot get insects, but we could get cloud seeding, moss, nitrolithic moss, and lichen. We also can get GHG producing, And then if we had the time, we could do special design and kelp farming. Like, that seems pretty good. The only issue is obviously, well, multiple issues. We need to buy all the heat manually, except for the couple we can get from this. And we need to get so many oceans. And we're going to need to buy the oceans relatively early enough so that we can build our greeneries against them and get cash monies. I don't know what else we would take, honestly. I feel like this is a pretty power grab. But what, geez, Inventrix has, well, let's look, $45, I think? 45 bucks. So we'd have 15 bucks left after buying all these. Plus we get 3 cards that we get to sell. That's 18 MC. Mega credits. With $18, what can you do with this? Can you get Lichen? You cannot get Lichen. So you wait a whole turn after buying all those cards. You get 14 more dollars. That brings you up to $32. With 32, this is 12. Sorry, I'm going to move these aside. So this is, we're talking about Generation 2. And look, I'll even get out a little text thing. G2. Oh, I'm getting all messed up with my buttons. G2, you do 12 bucks here. Then you have 20 bucks left. You're $1 short of kelp farming, turn 2. $1 short. That means that we could sell a card. So this strategy is one thing. If we sell it, or if we not sell a card, but if we get rid of a card. Instead, we could go. We have $20 at this point. We could buy Lichen and Cloud Seeding. So that's 18 bucks. So G2, G3. We have 12 and 18 is 30, so we'd have 2 bucks left. Then we have plus 14, so we'd be at $16. And we'd have a handful, sorry, $15 because we lose an ME production. 15 bucks is not a lot. But we'd have 3 plants. So with those 3 plants, you could play both of these. Right? Oh, that's not very good though, right? Because that's 12 bucks, so we'd have 3 plus the 14 again, or 13 again. So then we'd have 16 bucks. Here, just for completeness. G3. I always struggled to get out of that. Do you not exist? So this is the thought process. Sorry about that. I had a little disk shortage issue there. So the problem is that we're so friggin' broke, is what I think I was saying. So I'm kind of leaning towards the whole 1 fewer card thing, but I like to look at this to completion. And I have no idea if this is entertaining or not. Like going, oh, well, what's good, what's bad, what's, you know, and this would be better almost in a spreadsheet. But it's a little bit easier, I find, to conceptualize and walk through. Because all of a sudden we go from 3 plant income to 6. You know? And now we have 16 bucks on this round. Ooh, not to mention we could get this GHG started. So we go 8 here. And it just makes me wonder, how would it have been better to hold off a round to get other stuff running? And like, can we get insects? Not quite. We could if we special designed the insects, but that's only for 3 income. I'm starting to think that the insects aren't that great. But we need a lot of plants. This is 14 steps, obviously. And if you get up to 6 income in generation 3, you have 11 productions of 6. 11 times 6 is 66. Divided by 8 is almost 64. So it's like 8 greeneries plus 2 or 3 from the board. Like, you need more plants. I don't think you need insects more plants, though. If we increase that by 50% with kelp farming, then all of a sudden we're in a better spot. So let's... Oh, I did want to see this to conclusion. But I think that we can see that this is a kind of a weak start. So let's try this again. And this time, in Generation 2, we have how much cash monies? We have not 14. We have 45. 45, then we buy how many cards? No, I'm gonna keep penciling it down. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that's 9 cards. Plus we're gonna get $3 back. So of the 45, we're spending 27. And then adding 3 more. So we're net losing 24 from our start, and we end up with 21. For $21 in Generation 1, which I didn't expect to have a Generation 1, G1 please, we can play all this, I think is what we mathed out. So 12, 4 is 16. Am I high? I think this whole time I've been doing math, I forgot about a 10 in cost. Oh, that's like my not good enough start was based on having 10 more dollars or having 10 less cost, I think. So is it Gen 2? Oh no, it's because I was thinking about doing it Generation 2. That's why. It's like, no, I get the $14 for reasons. So Gen 1 we do nothing. We have $21. We get 14 bucks. You know, G2 we have 35. This total package costs 16 and 17 is 33. Then G3, we have the income from all this, okay? So we have 2 income, so we get 14 bucks. So plus 14 is equal to 16. And then for 16, we can get moss and nitrolithic moss. Or, what I'm thinking might be more important, is get GHG. Right? And this makes me question the lichen, but because I need to get these heat bumps ASAP to let symbiotic fungus do its work. Because minus 14, 1, 2, 3, 4, we need 3 heat bumps, or 4 heat bumps, before we can play it, which we're going to have to start buying. But we also need to buy the oceans, you know? So this is 16. Oh, sorry, we had plus 16 because we got 2 income from kelp farming. So really, we're at 18. The thing I'm debating now is whether or not you want cloud seeding or moss. Because if you get rid of cloud seeding, then you can play moss this turn. But I don't think we need to talk about that yet. So we play 16 bucks worth to get this stuff down. We get another $16. We're back up to 18. in G4, and then in generation 4, this is 15. We put our granary here or something to start double scooping plants. And then we have to buy some oceans soon, but first we can start getting the heat bumps because we really want the symbiotic fungus to kick in. I think that's going to be my build. It's obviously not optimized. I just looked at the first handful of turns, but now you know how my brain works. And yeah, I don't know if this was entertaining, informative, or hard to follow, but this is the strategy I like to put together. This is the deck building episode, as it were. And then later on, I'm going to record the actual attempt. So I hope you stick around for that. Cheers!